Soon we're going to talk about Zoe Zephyr, one of the most heroic legislators we currently have, one of the most heroic current representatives that we currently have. But right now I want to talk about the governors. There have been governors in some states that have been doing downright dastardly things. But let us not forget, there are also governors doing wonderful things, doing things that they will be praised for in the future, and they should be praised for now. Let's have a look at some local reporting about just this very topic. This is from KHQ. Let's have a little look-see. Washington governor signs legal protections for people who travel for abortions and gender-affirming care. Hell yes. Washington and Minnesota won't cooperate with attempts to prosecute out-of-state patients seeking reproductive or gender-affirming procedures and treatment under new laws signed Thursday by the two states' Democratic governors. They're the latest liberal states to enact, liberal's a hell of a stretch, but latest liberal states to enact legal safeguards as Republican legislators across the country are rushing to block or limit transgender and abortion health care. More than a dozen states have effectively banned abortion outright in the year since the Supreme Court's conservative majority overturned Roe v. Wade. For the record, that is the first time in history the Supreme Court has acted to reduce the rights of Americans. We got to get rid of them. Freedom of choice is a health care issue. We are protecting access to health care, said Governor Jay Inslee, who wore a pink tie to the outdoor bill signing ceremony in Seattle. Why do we care? The laws block other states from using Washington or Minnesota-run courts or judicial processes to enforce their bans, things like warrants, subpoenas, extradition requests, or other court documents. In other words, they're doing everything they can to bully American citizens. They're trying their hardest to make sure that America is a miserable place for a certain section of our population. Anti-abortion advocates and legislators questioned the need for Washington's and Minnesota's shield laws since abortion is already protected under state laws. Washington Republican Jim Walsh tweeted that policies are anti-family. No, they aren't. They are pro-freedom. Halfway across the country, Governor Tim Walz made Minnesota a refuge for young people coming from other states for gender-affirming care. We celebrated this on the channel. He also signed legislation Thursday making Minnesota a sanctuary for abortion patients from other states and banning so-called conversion therapy, hell yes, for LGBTQ plus youth. Look, I don't know how hard this concept is to understand, Waltz said. When someone else is given basic rights, others don't lose theirs. We're not cutting a pie here. We're giving basic rights to every single Minnesotan. God damn, Minnesota. I mean, you ought to be proud. You picked real good with this fella. Waltz and Inslee signed Washington too. Signed the bills on a day when Republican legislators in Kansas, guess who should not be proud right now, enacted what may be the most sweeping anti-transgender bathroom law in the nation. A day earlier, Montana Republican leaders barred a transgender state lawmaker from the House floor after she rebuked colleagues who voted to ban gender-affirming care for children. That is Zoe Zephyr. And she is deserving of her own segment. She's going to get it. But let's just leave it at the fact that we need more like her representing us. The Washington law responds to states such as neighboring Idaho that made it illegal for an adult to help a minor get an abortion without parental consent, and starting next year, anyone in Idaho who provides gender-affirming medical care for transgender youth could end up a convicted felon. They are going after the doctors. Similarly, the new Minnesota law is aimed at abortion patients not only from neighboring states, but those from as far away as Texas who have made Minnesota a destination. So in other words, they're these two states, Washington and Minnesota, are taking steps to ensure, similar to states that protected escaped slaves way back when, they're making sure that they are not having to turn over Americans to an unjust government. We got to keep up the fight, but look, there is something we can do to ensure that we see more of the good behavior and less of the bad. Remember that politicians are constantly looking at their own futures, and they are constantly in need of reassurance. I'm sure Jay Inslee, when he did this decision, is wondering, how much will this affect my future presidential ambitions? Just assume that every single person involved in politics that you meet is planning to be president eventually, hoping things work out that way. Encourage them. Make this behavior something that they see as conducive to their long-term aspirations. In the description, there is the contact page for the governor of Washington and Minnesota, Inslee and Walz. Write them. Tell them, good job. Tell them, I'm from X and I support you. I think what you just did there is the kind of thing I want to see, is the kind of thing leaders should do. And I see you as a good leader. Encourage them to be decent and just, and make sure that they are motivated to keep doing things like this, because by God, they earned it. All right, let's have a look at what the Wiki community has to say.